Hello guys! The Turkish series Eşref Rüya is a series that is watched with interest. It is claimed that the inspiration for this series is a real-life story. I would like to tell this story to you. Eşref is at the center of a story where the world, love, power, speed, betrayal and struggle are intertwined. But this is a true story. Yes, contrary to what many believe, Eşref Rüya is an adaptation of a real-life story. The series tells the story of Eşref, who was orphaned as a child. If you are ready, we are heading toward the world of Eşref Rüya, a world full of complex intrigues, whose mysterious promise is still unsolved. Prepare your teas and coffees. Growing up in loneliness, Eşref eventually climbs to the top of the criminal world and establishes a crime family by adopting orphaned children like himself as his family. However, Eşref's search for peace never ends. Nisan, a young musician who unexpectedly enters his life, turns Eşref's emotional world upside down and forces him to confront his past. The fact that Nisan is actually the girl Eşref had named Rüya years ago and that she works as an informant for the police further complicates events. All this was the plot of the Eşref Rüya series. But what about the real story? The real story is much more complicated and full of intrigue. This story first emerged in 2003 in a file in Istanbul archives. Born in 1980 in the Fatih district of Istanbul, Eşref Güler was orphaned at the age of 5 when his mother died in a basement fire caused by arson. His father, who had been working without an identity until then, suddenly disappeared. No one could find a trace of his existence. Eşref was officially left on the street overnight. With the efforts of the neighbors, he was placed in the Sarıyer Child Protection Institution. But it was not a home for children. It was literally a survival camp. Beatings, abuse, hunger, Eşref loses both affection and trust there. They cut his eye out in the first fight, and he had his first fight at the age of 9 with the boys who threatened his friend in the middle of the night with a screwdriver. He was beaten a lot that evening. That day, he took his first loyalty oath. One day, I will build a place for children like me. I will be a protector for the orphans. He ran away from the orphanage at the age of 12. He made a living by collecting garbage, shining shoes in front of mosques, and sometimes selling lighters. But Eşref was not an ordinary person. He was remarkable for his sharp intelligence, analytical thinking ability, cold-blooded approach to events, and leadership. In a short time, he formed a group of runaway and orphan children like himself. Over time, this group engaged in pickpocketing, petty fraud, and theft around Eminönü, Aksaray, and Karaköy in Istanbul. However, Eşref never harmed the innocent. He had a law. He would not target the elderly, children, or the poor. When he was young, he had read Robin Hood stories the most in the orphanage. He dreamed of becoming the Robin Hood for children like him. Eşref officially created his own street constitution, and that's why the kids around started calling him the chief. Growing up with beatings in orphanages and stones in the streets, Eşref Güler knew all the small gangs in the suburbs of Istanbul by the time he was 17. But he was not just interested in making money, he was interested in building a system. The beginning of Eşref's riches was a Syrian cigarette smuggler named Faisal Ghani, whom he met in Tofan in 1998. When Ghani discovered Eşref's invisible network of children, he offered him a distribution line that no one could touch. This was a unique opportunity for Eşref. Not only would he be able to take many children under his protection and give them jobs, but he would also make a lot of money. The children carried smuggled cigarettes, perfumes, and electronics all over Istanbul without attracting attention. Eşref bought an abandoned mansion in Tarlabaşı with the first big money he earned. In the basement of the mansion, he set up a kind of center. Maps, communication lines, speech codes. Eşref was no longer a street kid, but the secret architect of the underworld. By 2001, the 22-year-old had 3 apartments, 2 cars, and a nightclub registered in his name in Istanbul with fake identities, of course. But the abundance of money also multiplied enemies. At this point, Eşref carried out his first internal cleansing operation. He officially exiled two of his old friends, who were thought to have betrayed him, from Istanbul. He eliminated one of them, never to return. Eşref never fired a bullet, but there were many children who drew guns on his behalf. He officially became the hero of the orphan children on the streets. Now let's talk about Eşref's great love, Rüya Aksoy. Rüya Aksoy was born in Aru, the daughter of a music teacher mother and a police station commander father. Her mother played the violin and classical music echoed through the house. However, when Rüya was 11 years old, a traumatic night split her life in two. That night, her father stopped a van suspected of carrying drugs. A shootout broke out. Her father was seriously injured. The ambulance arrived only after 3 hours, and he died on the way. That minibus was on its way to Istanbul, and the only survivor of that shootout was a 15-year-old boy, Eşref Güler. This information was given to Rüya years later through a file. She was 17 at the time and had just entered the Istanbul University State Conservatory. She stood out with her talent, but she also harbored a sense of revenge. She received an offer from the Istanbul Police Department. Approach that boy. Give us all the information about him. That man owes you a father. Rüya immediately accepted this offer. It came from her father's colleague, whom she trusted the most. She accepted it out of revenge. But her real plan was completely different. She would find the evil in him, and if not, maybe she would heal herself. When Eşref and Rüya met, it was at a street festival in 2001. Rüya was playing the violin at that festival. She was a very quiet girl. For the first time in his life, Eşref realized that he had a heart. Rüya was not just a girl to him. She was a compass that showed him the steps he could take. But what Eşref didn't know was that Rüya was actually an informant specially trained by the Istanbul organized branch to infiltrate street gangs. Although their first meeting seemed like a coincidence, it had actually been meticulously planned. Rüya started playing the violin in the old tea garden in Kuzguncuk Square, Istanbul, where Eşref visited every evening. At the end of the third evening, Eşref sent Rüya a cup of tea, and his first sentence was, "Even your melody is sad. It's like you played it before you knew us." For the first time, Rüya hesitated. The child in his eyes was very familiar, the same loneliness, the same lostness. This was not going to be just a mission. Over the months, Eşref went to listen to that violin every evening. Rüya, on the other hand, slowly started to reduce the reports she wrote every day. The police soon realized this and pulled her off duty. But Rüya now carried her duty. In her heart, she had fallen in love with Eşref. And one day, Eşref told her about his childhood. He told her that he had survived the minibus that killed her father. He said he didn't know the driver of that van, that he was only there because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Rüya understood Eşref was also a victim in that van. Eşref wanted to start a new life with Rüya. They loved each other very much. He was going to leave these dangerous jobs behind and marry Rüya. But the streets were not so easy to leave. Some of the children he had raised started accusing him of being soft. Eşref's marriage to Rüya and his withdrawal from the market meant that many children would continue their struggle for life alone. This angered some of them, and betrayal began. At a night meeting in the Beykoz forest in 2003, one of them, Ali Reşat, whom Eşref considered his closest friend and brother, set a trap for him. The police carried out a big operation against Eşref that night. Even though Eşref wanted to get away from these bad deeds, the police were after him to make him pay for his crimes. A clash broke out between the police and Eşref. Eşref escaped that night, seriously wounded, and was never found again. There was no body, no trace. According to some rumors, he escaped and settled in Macedonia, living under a new identity. According to another version, he died that night, and one of the children threw his body into the Black Sea. Rüya gave up her entire music career in 2005 and emigrated to Germany. There is no information about her. She doesn't use social media. No one has heard from her. All these allegations make those who knew Eşref think that he has passed away from this world because he loved Rüya so much they cannot believe that he would leave her and live another life. Eşref Güler's name is still in the archive of unresolved cases. Those who knew Eşref still say the same thing. Eşref Güler was more than a criminal. He was a child, forgotten by the system, struggling to survive. The story of Eşref and Rüya was written on the walls, scribbled in old notebooks, and silently filtered through the eyes on some nights. There are still people whispering their names in the most crowded streets and the loneliest alleys of Istanbul. Do you think Eşref is still alive? Did Rüya really give up everything for him? Or is this just a fairy tale forgotten in the dark? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are curious about such hidden stories based on real-life experiences and behind-the-scenes details of the series. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next video. Bye!